and welcome to the Jargon Podcast. It's your host here, Ruben Gutierrez, aka RubenHood. And today I just want to start out with a little segment, just making some appreciation to the people who commented on my video and gave me feedback and stuff like that. So I want to start off by thanking Yanisi Franco, one of my friend's moms, and she's just always been a real supporter and helpful compatriot to my life. And so I just wanted to shout out to her. Angel D Mech 9. You already know, definitely going to talk about gaming and stuff like that, like we used to back in the day. I always want to make sure that everything that I say and that I bring up always kind of comes back to how it can help you in the future, or how it incorporates into the growth of yourself, so that everything that you kind of consume or everything that you involve yourself in can be an enriching experience, and at the same time can be a lot of fun for you. So it can be balanced out. So it's not so much about being deep and philosophical and always trying to find yourself, rather than just having a good time, appreciating what you have, and just continuing forward, with your goals and stuff like that. I also want to thank Serenity as well. Her comment was, can't wait for the next episode. Me neither. I'm really excited to do this today. And Serenity is also my girlfriend, and I just want to do a little appreciation to her and thank her. She's also the one that edits my videos, so if you think my voice sounds great, it's most likely due to her and her efforts. And I also want to thank Trans Addict 138 NYC represent. Hey, that's what's up, man. Just another one of my friends out there just thanking me and letting me know that I have his support. And I really thank him as well, because he's one of the examples of people that have been always timid and shy to kind of live their life. And now he moved from Orlando and is living in New York and just pursuing his dreams and really making things happen for himself. So I'm really proud of him. And also he loves trance, as you heard his username. I love trance too. It's probably my favorite style of music besides rap and stuff like that, just because trance just gives you that very close relationship with your emotions and gives you that ambience, so if you're feeling good, or if you're feeling sad, or if you don't really know how you're feeling, you kind of put that on and it gives you kind of like the flow, or like a pathway to find that and connect with it, so very abstractly, it's just a very awesome genre. And I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to the first episode. I hope my words touched you in some positive way. I know life has a habit of being unpredictable and things like that, but the great thing about ourselves is that we always have patterns that keep us consistent in our day-to-day lives. And what that means to me is, in the chaos that is our lives and in the craziness, we always have a chance to be ourselves, and we always will do what is necessary and what we want to do to keep ourselves balanced, or keep ourselves in somewhat a sane capacity. So even though the world might seem crazy and unpredictable, just know that the people around you, and me and myself as well, we all have patterns and always have kind of a way of showing how we are, so that even though things might get crazy, you can always connect back and look at the people around you and think to yourself, wow, even though I might not know what happens to me today, I at least know that these people will always be the way they are. So what I want to focus on today is actually 3 different topics, and kind of like this little trifecta of things I've been thinking about for the week. And what I wanted to kind of bring to you guys is these ideas and how they meld together and really bring you up to focus. Essentially, I want to be inspirational. I want to motivate people, and I also want to show people where I'm going myself and my path. And so in order to do that, I think that I should just dive right in. So the first thing I do want to talk about is focus. And so I have regular definitions of the topics that I want to talk about, because I want to keep it grounded, and I want you guys to kind of understand the groundwork of where these concepts come from and how they intertwine with yourself. And from there, I'll give you examples in my own kind of way of thinking about it and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is focus. And the definition for focus, which I kind of just Googled, the center of interest or activity. Now, focusing is a very hard thing to do sometimes. And I feel like the first time we kind of learned how to focus and really ingrain it into our memory was in school. All we did was sit down, have the teacher explain to us what we were doing, and then continue to do it. The teacher was always trying to build within us a sense of focus and a sense of consistency. We did the same things every day. We went over similar aspects every day, although we grew and built upon them. Essentially, it was always about keeping that kind of rhythm so that you can learn to focus. And I think that's what school teaches a lot of us. However, a lot of us also didn't really pay attention in class, or were passing notes or joking around and stuff. And that was all throughout, elementary, middle, and high school. So for me, myself, I was kind of like half and half, because I would be talking with friends sometimes in class. I would be usually sitting in the back, And then sometimes I wouldn't even be in class because I was in other programs and stuff like that. But essentially, we all kind of learn to focus within school. But let's say you didn't really get that focus. You didn't really have that attention span to kind of sit there and absorb everything and understand that next level where, oh, this is not just for my education, but this is a quality for myself that I want to build upon and that I want to grow for myself. Perfect example is a friend that I had in high school. He would always, oh my gosh, every time I'd come to class, he was always asleep or almost asleep. And, he still passed the classes with great grades. And he also helped me in my trigonometry class at certain points. He was always sleeping in class and he would just be never focused or paying attention. And me, I'm sitting there trying to focus and we're essentially getting the same grades. And so even him, a person who didn't really get to focus in class and stuff like that, I'm sure he found his focus in other areas because focusing is all about finding a way to hone in on an idea or a thing that you want for yourself or for others. If you want to focus on helping somebody, you focus on them. If you want to focus on building yourself up, you focus on what are the building blocks. If you want to help yourself kind of understand how to hone in on that aspect where you can literally just look at something and it's not so much what you're focusing on, but why you're focusing on it. That next step, that next level of understanding for yourself so that when you're sitting there and you're trying to grind out a couple hours or really trying to break apart something that may be confusing at times, it's always good to have that focus and have that time for yourself to kind of build upon it. And so some of the other things that I think are very helpful are things like obviously eating. For me, breakfast is like the number one thing. Breakfast is probably the first and best thing you can do every day. You got to make sure you get those nutrients in your head first thing in the morning so that you can go and you can get your day started. Obviously, people use other things like coffee, like drinks and stuff like that, energy drinks in the morning to kind of wake themselves up. And then in that way, they kind of can motivate themselves after that. Because a lot of times what we just really need is that jump start. A perfect example is computers. For instance, a lot of people always tell you when you turn on your computer, especially a desktop, the best way to save energy is to just leave it on or put it on sleep mode. Because once the computer is turned on, that's the most power it takes to turn on. We turn on the computer and then we get started on our day, doing everything we got to do on the computer, whether it's checking emails and stuff like that. And then when the day's over, we put it on sleep mode. And turning it off actually takes more energy because you're just turning it off. Even if sleep mode leaves it on for longer, turning it back on is a lot of the power. And it's like maximum effort in that moment. And so I'm kind of just trying to keep it in an abstract format so that you guys can kind of paint a picture in your mind of how you want to see it. Because the definition that I gave to you guys in the beginning of this part was kind of the foreground so that now that the space is open and now that we kind of can see how the sky is lit and everything like that, we can kind of delve into now, let's paint the picture and let's draw the framework, which focusing to me is kind of setting up that vision, setting up that moment where you want to see something and you want to try to find the aspect of it that makes it important to you. Everything that you want to focus on in life always has some type of connection to you. Now that may seem obvious at first, but a lot of times we have trouble focusing for more than a couple seconds or longer than a certain period of time. And we also have this, I don't know the correct term for it, but it's when you can focus and you start to focus, but then you gradually lose focus over time because of the time itself. And so in order to break out of that habit, you kind of have to find the present moment to accept things of how they are and kind of take that and build upon it. And so essentially, when I think about focusing, I always think about ways to kind of de-stress the mind. So de-stressing the mind includes kind of working yourself out. Essentially, how like a child, if you don't have any children or you don't have any siblings or anything like that, maybe you don't even remember how it was like to kind of be a kid. But most children have very high energy and it takes a lot for them to tire out, right? So, but once you tire them out, it's like peace. They're just chilling. They're on the couch or they're falling asleep. They're drooling or something random, Perfect example of something that you can do to help you kind of focus after you've gotten all those things out of your mind, because stress is a main contributor to kind of a lack of focus because you're so wound up. You're so wound up on what you're trying to do and everything that's going on around you that you have a lot of external forces at play that are affecting you, and you may have some internal forces at play that are counteracting that focus. Like an example for myself is whenever I try to focus on something, I'll close my eyes and try to imagine it. And a lot of times my mind will play tricks on me or try to throw things in my way that aren't really important or aren't really relevant, but they're subconsciously things that affect me all the time. So in order for me to make sure that I don't lose focus, I have to keep a clear mind. So I kind of want to try this example with you and see if it works for you. I want you to close your eyes and imagine a ring in the middle of your mind, expanding until you kind of have a blank slate. And I want you to continue kind of expanding that ring as many times as you need to until you feel that blank slate in your mind where you see nothing. It's just empty, and just continue. And as you get that blank slate, when you feel like your mind is absolutely clear, open your eyes and think about the first thing you want to focus on. And that right there is a perfect example of how to focus on something. And even if it doesn't work for you, the whole idea is getting your mind to kind of de-stress and kind of taking the cluster out. Also, it always helps to do essentially to keep your body occupied. So a perfect example for myself that I did, I had a couple friends come over and we were hanging out and everything like that. Me and my friends were kind of just like, yo, do you know how to do a handstand? And I was kind of like, yeah, I know how to do a handstand. And I did one. But when I came down, it was very heavy. And so I kind of was stomping on the ground. And we live on the third floor. So living on the third floor, it kind of adds a very heavy impact. And in general, when you're doing a handstand, you don't want to come down hard, because when you're doing it multiple times, it's going to hurt your feet and it's a bad posture to do. Like for instance, working out, you always want to have good posture and always want to have a good format to do it so that you don't hurt yourself in the future when you're using heavier weights. So my friend Carlos was like, yo, let me show you how to do it. And so he just did a handstand real quick, boom, boom, light step and everything. And my friend John was like, oh, I know how to do handstand. So he does his version. And so the differences between us three, just to kind of give you a foreground of it, is that I haven't worked out in a while at the time. So I was very, out of shape. And my friend Carlos has always been doing martial arts here and there. So he's kind of trained in the art of moving his body and having that mind-body connection being very strong. And my friend Jonathan is just an athlete. He's very sports prone. He's very active and stuff like that. So he has that type of body. So both of them were essentially doing really well. And I was kind of like struggling with it. So they kind of were giving me tips and stuff like that and trying to helping me do it. And so eventually I finally got my step up and stuff like that. And I finally was able to balance myself and come down without giving that heavy step. Then we hit the next level. Okay, now when you do a handstand, you don't want to look down, because looking down affects your perception. And so what you want to do is you always want to be looking forward. And he brought it into the martial arts aspect where you always want to be looking forward because you always want to have your eyes on your opponent. And then he does the handstand and shows me that. So it's kind of like the building blocks in your own way. So once you understand how to do one thing in that long line of things, you can then take the next step. So when I went from doing a handstand, then I could do a handstand while still looking forward. So I still had vision, because looking down was actually affecting me because I was so focused on my visuals that I wasn't thinking about my core and my body to make sure that I flex my muscles so that I keep my posture and stuff like that. And so we did it for a while, and eventually it got to the point where we were so tired and tuckered out that my arms kind of got jelly. So I tried to do one more, and then I practically broke my neck, kind of just dropped on the ground. I was like, whew, okay, this is a lot of fun. And I'm pretty good. I feel really good. And then out of nowhere, I just blurred out, wow, I really feel like I could say what I want to say now that I'm like tired out. And it was like oh, now I see. Now I get what I'm saying. So essentially, I thought to myself that, oh, snap, I exhausted myself to the point where now my mind wasn't so burdened with extra thoughts or just like superfluous moments in my mind. And I was kind of just clear. I was focused. And that's what I mean when I talk about kind of getting your body to do something. Also, what really helps me when I want to focus on something or when I want to think about something is I take a walk, because walking essentially gets my body to focus on walking so my mind can be focused on thinking 100%. And so because I walk all the time, and we all do, our body kind of has that on autopilot. And so while I'm on autopilot, my mind is focused on focusing. And so it's very easy for me to kind of get into a flow of thinking about what I want to think about and focusing on what I want to say and what I want to kind of express to myself. And so pretty much any type of activity that you can do or any type of idea that you can think of that might help you let go of the pressure that you have in life and those essentially those superficial thoughts where a lot of them just stem from the biases and the conditioning that we've experienced in our own lives where we kind of continue to focus on and that they're not really important to us. And so I want to make sure that that's not what's going on because I want you to think about focusing as an idea, as something abstract that you can grab and that you can eventually develop. And so you can have it as a second nature thing. So when you're sitting with a group of people or when you're sitting with people around you that are working on projects with you, you can find that focus and you can hone it on like, all right, guys, let's sit down and let's focus on this idea. And everyone's kind of just like, everyone's instantly in there. And then you can feel that energy and then it cycles out and you feel great because you now understand, okay, I'm focusing. Now I want to focus and boom. I kind of said a lot there, but essentially, I just want you to understand that when it comes to focus, and I feel like I really need to expand on this topic because for me, myself, it's very hard for me to focus sometimes on things and focus on what I want to do and how I want to be. And at the same time, I know that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with it. So I want to give as many tips and I want to let you know as many things as possible so that you can better yourself and so that you can kind of open up the discussion for yourself of, okay, let's be serious. How do I want to focus? What do I want to do? And how do I want to be focused on these things? And at the same time, how do I develop my focus so that it becomes second nature so I don't need this thing or that thing to kind of help me get focused on something, Because we all have our own mannerisms and our own behaviors that kind of influence how we focus on things. Like for me, sometimes I can't sit there and just for hours focus on something. Sometimes I need that spark. So that's why my example was walking and stuff like that, because I'll take a walk, I'll get introspective, and then boom, I'll find that focus. And when I find that focus, you kind of just got to grab it and you got to go with it. Because when you're focused, time and everything else kind of disappears. And all you're in is that moment, that ever present moment of thinking about what you want to do or what you want to focus on. And so a lot of all this kind of stems and plays into my own idea of what focus is. And my personal idea is always having a catalyst. A catalyst for me is what essentially drives that focus and makes it paramount. So what I mean by a catalyst is something that gets you to focus. And my first example was when you go to school, your catalyst was education. Your education was what was getting you to focus, and your teachers, and your parents too, if they kind of pushed you to do your homework and stuff like that. That's what got you that focus, and that was that catalyst. But the thing about a catalyst is that it can be anything. Anything can be your catalyst. For instance, for myself, sometimes I am my own catalyst where I'm like, I just got to sit down, like, be grown up about it and just say, you need to focus. You need to sit there and you need to get this because you need to make sure that you can get this right. And you need to make sure that you can understand this so that when you tell others or when you want to do something or when you write something down, that it's clear, it's concise, and most of all, it conveys what you want to say. Because the catalyst is what really helps you get going. And so the catalyst is what will help you develop your focus until you have that focus as a second nature. And when you have that focus as a second nature, it helps you understand how you can use that for other things. So then when you build upon that focus, now you can focus on other things that are instantaneous, like for instance, conversations, behaviors, and stuff like that. I know that in relationships and when we try to date and stuff like that, one of the most important factors is the first interaction, that first meetup, that level of awareness that you want to see, you want to understand them. And you don't want to be too, you don't want to be too, how do I say, hyper focused or try to see through them like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the first time you're meeting. It's the first time. So you don't want to make it so heavy and so specific. But at the same time, you want to have a level of focus where you're understanding what they're saying. You're listening and you're responding accordingly to what's going on, and kind of giving your own feedback and giving your own personality. Because we all want to have a little bit of mystery to ourselves as well, where we can express ourselves, but at the same time leave something to kind of draw them in. And that's really what helps with the catalyst, is because it draws you in. Another example for me is artwork. I'm not a very good artist, but I like to draw. So whenever I draw and I want to focus on what body parts I'm drawing or what I want to draw on, my catalyst for that is, what is it that I'm thinking of right now that makes me want to kind of get into that aspect, and what is it, focus on that. And so really my big thing on it is just always having a catalyst and making sure that catalyst is paramount. And once you have a catalyst and you can get that going, then you will have that focus that you're looking for. And you just always got to build upon it, and then always have like a little bit of support there too, because obviously if you always worry about a catalyst, you may forget about your own individual needs as well. Like, for instance, making sure that you are clean, making sure that your mind is regularly stable, as in, you're making sure that you get enough rest, that you get enough break time, that you get enough mental flexibility to kind of express yourself verbally and internally, so that when you focus on something, all the things that have been building up within you don't kind of all come out all at once. So when you're focusing, suddenly you're focused, and then everything else kind of just comes down on you. You're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. You never want to have that happen to you. So yeah, focusing is definitely a major aspect of anything that involves really getting on a deeper level and understanding who you want to be and understanding how you want to live your life. So with focus, how do you get focused? Well, what if I'm not really feeling it? Or what if I just can't get the mental fortitude, the mental energy to focus? What if I don't have time to relax? I'm always busy. I'm always doing stuff. I read a while ago that Albert Einstein, whenever he needed to take a break, when he was working on things, stuff like that, he would hold a bowl in his hand. And when he was taking a nap, whenever the bowl dropped, he would wake up and he would continue working, and they would round out to about 10 to 15 minutes. And so the idea behind that I got is, your mind needs breaks sometimes. And I know our lives can be very busy, but 10, 15 minutes throughout a day is something I think we can all manage to find for ourselves. And refreshing the mind, even if it's just a little bit, really helps to your cognitive ability for the rest of the day to kind of stay focused or have that drive to continue forward. And so my next topic that I want to talk about that kind of incorporates focus is motivation. What is it that motivates us? What is it that brings us that energy that we can continue forward and move? Is it the bills that we have to pay for? Is it that responsibility that's weighing on us that makes us think that if we don't do this, our lives are essentially going to be over? If we don't do this, our family is not going to be able to survive. We won't be able to support ourselves. Things like that. There are very heavy weights in our lives that we have to manage and make sure that we kind of balance out so that we don't feel overwhelmed. And I think motivation is clearly one of the best things that we can do so that we can keep ourselves up. And that's where the kind of jumpstart gets into play. That's where you kind of start turning yourself on that motivation, because I talked a little bit about discipline in my last episode. And when I say a little bit, I just mentioned it. And so discipline is just, like I said before, is that long road ahead. But beyond that, discipline is what keeps the computer running. It's what keeps you going. Motivation is what gets you started. And so I want to make sure you all get started on working and taking those first, or maybe those continuous steps towards your goals, and always be positive about it. Because I know for myself and for others, I have people in my lives that where I talk about motivation, or where I talk about being positive and being excited and getting with, the groove of being happy about your life and where it's at, even if it's not at a good point. A lot of times I'll get feedback where it's like, I don't really care. Or, what, like, your motivation and your positivity is getting kind of annoying. So if you could just stop that, please. Like, let me just be sad. Okay. Let me be sad. And it's like, I understand 100%. If you want to be sad, be sad. If you want to feel a certain type of way, do it. My personal thing is always feeling it out. I never want someone to tell me to stop feeling something, because your emotions are your own and they're very real to you, even if they're not real to others. Even if people don't appreciate how you feel or don't understand how you can feel certain ways about certain things, forget that, okay? Because your feelings are your own and they're important. And so for me, I want to tell you all that you got to really feel it out. Just let your emotions give give them the opportunity, and give yourself the opportunity to feel these things out, because we won't always be positive and we aren't always going to be happy about the things that are going on in our lives. But that doesn't mean that we should shut them out. We shouldn't just stop ourselves from feeling a certain type of way just because, say, oh no, I need to be positive. Oh no, I need to be this. I need to be that. I can't always be negative. Hey, if you need to be negative, be negative. If you want to spread that salt, shoot that salt. You know what I'm saying? If you want to spit that BS, spit that. Do what you got to do. Let that anger out. Let your emotions flow, so that when you come back and when you're ready, you now understand that, "Ooh, I've expressed myself. I feel better about things." And maybe not. Maybe you still need some time. Always want to have that for yourself, those moments where you can kind of give yourself that release, because these things are important for your development, because you want to be able to have a balance, so that when you get angry, you get angry. If someone disrespects you, you should get angry. You shouldn't let anybody disrespect you. If you feel sad because something that happened to you was traumatic, then feel sad about it. Take that time, take that moment. Just always remember that everything is fleeting. These feelings aren't always going to be here. I'm not always positive. I'm not always uplifting, but I always try to be. I always try to put my best foot forward, so that I can show others and show myself that we can be there for each other, and we can be happy about the lives that we live. So we don't have to be so held back by our own insecurities and subconscious thoughts, so that we can really push forward and think to ourselves, yo, I love myself. Yo, I'm happy about this. Yo, I want to let other people know that I care about them too, even if I don't get the chance to show them in some way. It always doesn't have to be so philosophical or so introspective or so even quote unquote motivational. Sometimes you just have to tell people how you feel. And if they resonate and if it connects with them, then that means that it will help them, and it will give them that perspective, so that they can see things differently. Because there are so many people in this world, and so many of us, and maybe even a little bit of yourself, that feel like you're not good enough. And that's a lie, because we're all born. We all live on this earth. We are all alive, and we deserve every much of an opportunity as anybody else. So motivation comes from understanding what you want to do, and finding that will, finding that inspiration to kind of put forth that aspect. And I know that's very abstract, and in this point of the painting, we have gone beyond the borders, and we are now kind of just painting outside of the lines. And I think that's great, because I want to show you guys that beyond what I may have in store for you, I want to tell you that there is so much more to find. And I hope that the things I tell you kind of give you a piece of yourself that you may have been missing, or may have been lost within, the muddle and within the mud. And you kind of find that piece of the puzzle, shining in the distance. And you're like, wow, I've got another piece. Bam. And you put it on your puzzle. And now you have another aspect of yourself that you can kind of open up and dig into, to kind of find a piece of motivation, because we can either have a big or small pieces and put them together and kind of get our lives jump started. Beyond that, I want to tell you a little bit about what's motivated me very recently as well. So essentially, I'm living with my family right now, specifically my grandfather. And I don't know if anybody's lived with a grandparent or anything like that, but when you look at grandparents and when you talk to them and when you're around them, you always feel like this bubbly feeling, or like this intense feeling of kind of not pressure, so to speak, but they've been doing this for a very long time, and they've been living for a very long time. So all they have is knowledge and experience kind of garnered into them. And so for a while, for like a couple months ago, I was kind of just sitting down watching Netflix and just relaxing. I wasn't really focusing on anything and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I was kind of just like, I was living my life. I was working. I was, paying my bills and stuff like that. And I didn't really feel fulfilled or anything like that. And then I talked to my grandfather, and I see what he's doing, and I just kind of get used to that cycle. And then I look at myself and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? This man is 80 years old, working every day, making it happen, grinding for the past 70 plus 80 years. You know what I'm saying? Essentially his whole life, he's been doing this. And I'm sitting here and I'm just chilling. Like, nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 no more. No more. So I instantly just got up and was like, all right, let's focus and let's find the things that I want to do. All right, maybe I'm lacking a little bit of motivation. Every time I lack a little bit of motivation, I just look at him. Look at the man he's become. He runs his own company now. He's doing his own thing. And at the same time, we've helped him kind of build it up and build up this foundation for himself where he feels not just accomplished, but also himself motivated to kind of run things and everything like that. But beyond that, the whole idea is that looking at him motivates me beyond compare because that is a vision of myself in the future. And what I mean by that is our families are essentially us, just differently. We're all connected and we're all part of the same human experience, but they are leagues above us in experience and knowledge where I'm sitting here thinking to myself that maybe I'm doing enough. And then I look at him and I'm like, clearly it's not enough for myself if I still feel like I'm not doing enough. Seeing him motivated me beyond compare because now I'm like, all right, let's get started. All right, let's do the things that we want to do. Because essentially for myself, like you guys have probably realized already, I love to talk and I love to share my experiences with my friends and with my family. And I love to engage in conversation with others and kind of get an idea of who they are to kind of maybe help them and at the same time help myself build myself up to be the point where I want to be. And looking at him is my motivation and my inspiration to kind of just like recently to kind of just get started up, do like that. But I've had many other motivations, like my friend that I brought up last week who's kind of been grinding for the past 2+ years about working on his game. And he's like in the dark in terms of like, he's kind of put it out there, but he's still working on it and it's still in beta so that when he's ready, when he's 100% ready to release it, it's out. I've got friends that are grinding at their jobs, like living maybe in a way lifeless, but so that they can get what they want in the future, those long-term goals, save up, build up that economy so that they can build what they want when they're ready. When you have that motivation, when you have that piece of yourself that you're looking for, that you want to have, the motivation is what kind of brings you and jumpstarts you there. And the discipline is what keeps you going. And discipline is hard. Discipline is very hard to develop because it's something that grows over time. And in my generation, we want things instantly. We want instant gratification. We want things to happen now. Tomorrow? No, 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 no. I don't need that tomorrow. I need that now. Everything we want now. And that really isn't how the world works. And a lot of things that we want in life take time. Consoles, TVs, buildings, houses, none of these are built overnight. Nothing is built overnight. But we have this sense of reality that everything is now. But I think that is because of the internet and how we kind of interact with the world around us. Because we have these devices and these resources that give us information instantly, we think everything happens instantly. Oh, that article? I got that instantly. I read it like that. Instant, quick, boom, done. Wow, it must have taken that much time. It must have taken little to no time at all to get all that information. But you realize as you go through school and especially college that everything takes time, but it's all about that journey. It's all about taking that next step and realizing that all of this is part of a bigger picture. A lot of times when I was talking with my friends and hanging out at Temple University, there was something that would always be going around in the engineering school that my friend Sat would always tell us. And every time we went out to parties and stuff like that, it was always the same thing. Hey, bro, trust the process. Hey, bro, trust the process. They'd give him some dap and they'd be like, yo, trust the process, dog. Don't worry about it. And I would always be thinking to myself, trust the process. What does that even mean? What process? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I was in a way thinking very close-minded of it, and I wasn't really trying to broaden the definition. I was kind of seeing it as, okay, engineering students are talking about trusting the process. Well, they're always trying to build things or work on new concepts. So I guess they're just talking about trusting the process of the build. And what I wasn't realizing for myself that took me a while was trust the process, trust the journey, everything that you do and everything that you're working towards. If you're doing the right things and taking the right steps, that your end goal will be there. Where you want to end up is where you will, as long as you're taking those steps and as long as you're honest with yourself and you look at the things around you and the things in front of you and you accept that as long as I continue, as long as I keep moving forward, it will be there. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. That is one of the biggest inspirations and biggest motivators in all of history is yourself, people, each other. Use each other as inspiration. Use other people. There's a quote, I think it was Carl Sagan. I'll put the exact quote in the description below on the video or at the end so I can kind of add it as a tidbit for you. But essentially the quote is, if I have so much vision and so much sight, it's only by standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's what I'm trying to say. If you need to use other people to help you motivate yourself, then go ahead and do that. Definitely do that. Motivation doesn't always have to come from an outside source. You can always find it within yourself. And we always have the energy to push forward. Me, myself, who has been very lazy at times or just not very motivated at certain aspects. For the past 2 months, I've been pushing myself to work throughout the day. I wake up. This is my routine. I wake up every day at 7:30 in the morning, take a shower, make myself breakfast, make myself lunch, eat the breakfast, pack the lunch, get ready, pack my things up, head to the office, work from the office till around 3:30, 4 o'clock. After that, boom, go to my second job, work that from 4 to 8 p.m. or 4 to 9 p.m. around there, and then ride the bus home. I don't get home till like 10:30, 11 p.m. That is every day, pretty much besides the weekends. And if I have like a random day off, I use it as kind of like a creative day. I'll spend my time thinking about what I want to do, abstract concepts, where I am in my life, who is it that I want to be in the future, the building blocks and the stepping stones that I need to do and that I need to take in order to become the person I want to be in the future. And so I realized even being very lazy and unmotivated at a time, when I'm putting in this work, when I am putting in all this effort, I don't feel very tired. I feel tired, but I don't feel tired to the point where I can't do this anymore. And that's where I hope to inspire you and I hope to motivate you to show you that even if you may feel lazy, you don't have to work how hard I'm working. I just want you to know that if you put in effort, if you give yourself the opportunity to challenge yourself and give yourself those moments where you're like, ooh, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm just too tired to do this. Let's take this one step. Let's take one more step. Another example that is very simple and something that we can all connect with is washing dishes. Who wants to wash dishes? Shoot, I hate washing dishes. I don't want to do that. Ain't nobody want to do that. But I know that if I wash the dishes and I take it one dish at a time, I'll get done, almost instantaneously because I won't be worried about all the dishes that I have. I'm only worried about the dishes that I have in front of me, in my hand, scrubbing one at a time, cleaning one at a time. And you really find that when you take everything step by step, 1, 2, 3, instead of 11, 35, 69, 87, 25, pretty much jumbling numbers up. Or in another way, giving yourself a randomly inputted amount of effort every day. When you find that consistent 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you find that you can balance yourself and you can keep yourself regulated so that you can keep going, so that external forces won't affect you because you have this routine. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that your routine is very important. What you do every day will eventually become a habit. And those habits, those good habits, will eventually become part of your personality. And you will be shining. You will be brilliant. You will be someone who is looked up to. And in that way, you will be more excited and happier for yourself, because not only are people looking at you as motivation or as inspiration, you yourself can use yourself as that catalyst, as that perception, as that motivator. I'm kind of tired. I don't want to get up today. I think I'm just going to stay in and fall asleep. Or, ooh, I'm tired, but you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this. If I just get up right now, I can do this. All right, I've gotten up. All right, if I just walk over there, I can do this. All right, I'm walking. And then, you kind of just get into that rhythm and you get into that moment where you can kind of understand where it is that you want to be and where you want to go. And I think that is very important and amazing. And that's why I think motivation, I don't ever want to kind of give you a definition of motivation, but like I said, I'll give this one to you. And I wanted to kind of leave it closer to the end because I wanted to make sure that the idea of motivation in your mind is as yours as you want it to be, because I want to make sure that you feel that you have a personal definition what these things are for yourself, so that it is that much more connected to you. And so the definition for motivation that I found was the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. And that's pretty general, that's pretty abstract, whatever it is or whatever you are or whatever you want that gives you that kind of feeling to do something. And that's why motivation to me is just such a big part of getting focused and getting back to, I guess, what I would want to say your true self, or the person that you see yourself as. And another example that I have that my friend gave me is when you're walking and you're moving towards your goal, if you stop to look at yourself while you're moving, some things might not look right, or some parts of yourself might seem bigger than the other, but it's not about how you look. It's about the goal, what you're moving towards, the thing in front of you, the person you want to be in the future, that ideal vision of yourself. That's what you should continue moving towards, because who you are now is still being built. Who you are now is still being worked on, because you're still working on yourself. Like a marble statue. A lot of the great artists and stuff like that, they always say that when you start to chip at the marble and you start to find the object, you're really just chipping away at the extra, and the piece is already inside. And so the image of yourself and who you want to be is already there. You just have to kind of keep chipping away at the pieces that kind of, you don't really like I don't really like staying up too late. I don't really like, the way my hair looks. Maybe I should get a haircut. I don't really like how I don't think of myself very positively. A little mental tap on there. And so, you always want to make sure that when you want to be motivated, or when you're trying to find that motivation, it's really all about what you find within life, or have found within life, that gets you inspired, that gets you in that feeling of happiness and kind of jump starting you. And don't think of it as it has to be something that is relevant to you now. Look back into your childhood, look back into the way you lived, and look back into who you were as a person, because all of that is a part of you, and it shouldn't be neglected, and it shouldn't be pushed to the side. Like, who you were factors into who you are now, but never let the past perceptions of yourself hold you back from who you want to be in the future and who you are now, because we are constantly changing. And that is growth, to constantly change, to develop, to grow as a person, to become something more than we ever thought we could be. And I hope that some of these words may inspire you, or may motivate you to look for those things again, and to find those aspects of yourself that you may have forgotten, or that may have been lost in translation. Because I kind of been talking about motivation a lot, I want to make sure that I move towards the next topic, which is spirit. And spirit is, that's pretty much your soul, who you are, down deep, deep beyond anybody can see, any perception that anybody can have of you, any idea that people may think they know you. A lot of people ask others, how do you see me? What do you think of me when you think about me? Who do you think I am as a person? Forget all that. Your spirit is who you are, your essence, your soul, the inner parts of yourself that only you can really manage, and only really you can kind of feel. And I'll just give you the definition so that you can kind of have like a base ground to start off from. And so the definition of spirit is the non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. That is the basic definition of it. And so I want you to have your own definition, and pretty much your own definition is who you see yourself as a person. Even if you may be obnoxious, arrogant, annoying, beautiful, awesome, amazing, charismatic, pretentious, unequivocally prone to failure, someone who has had a lot of success in their life, someone who doesn't really feel connected to people, someone who feels like all they do is connect, someone who feels like they're alone, someone who feels like they can't help but be alone. All those things that may be parts of yourself or aspects. Don't worry about any of that. the spirit is the will. The spirit is who you are, your essence, and where you bring that, and where you can kind of feel yourself building. And so inside of us, we all kind of have our own spirit. We all have our own idea of what we want to be and how to build upon it. And at the same time, we also have these aspects that we want to bring together for ourselves. Like, for instance, I want to be more positive, not just say it, but I want to be more positive. I know a lot of times within myself, will think negative thoughts, or I'll think superficially, or I'll think very quickly, and I won't think over what I want to say. And I read something online. I think it was like a Twitter post or something. It was pretty interesting though. And it pretty much went like this. Her grandmother pretty much taught her that the first thing that you think when you see someone is what you've been conditioned to think. And the second thing is what you actually think as a person. And so that kind of taps into the whole conscious, subconscious, mind over matter type situation that we have within ourselves, where our spirit is something that we have personally been growing for ourselves and may not have always been aware of it. And our mind is something that has been developing while we have been connecting and experiencing the world around us since we were born. But these two things are connected but not the same, because your mind is not your soul and your soul is not your mind, at least to me, because I feel like the soul is the aspect of yourself of where you are aware of who you are as a person and what you want to do and where you want to be. And I think the mind is the capabilities and the physical embodiment of all those thoughts being turned into actions, and those actions going from metaphysical or non-visual to visual, where you can move your hands, where you can create, where you can draw, where you can write out your ideas, where you can build your ideas like houses or planes, cars, magnifying glasses, pencils and pens, all those things that kind of have a physical attribute to them all started within the mind. They all started as an idea. And before that idea, it all started with someone thinking of that, someone wanting to create something, someone who was passionate about building something. And so spirit in and of itself isn't hard to define, but it is hard for us to accept, because sometimes we'll see ourselves in a different way. And I guess in my own personal journey, for a while, I kind of felt like my spirit was, not in the right place, and it wasn't growing in the right way. And I didn't see myself as the person that I always thought I was, because I was always doing things that wasn't exactly within my nature. And because of that, I had a conflict within myself, because I'd find myself believing I am some type of person, right? And then my actions would say that I am this type of person. And so the balance between the two was not sound. There's chaos and there's harmony, and they both exist within us. And within chaos and harmony is a type of balance. And in that balance, we exist. Now, we may have violent tendencies and we have peaceful tendencies. And what we do within our lives kind of shapes who we are as people, even what we think as well. So make sure to always try to think of yourself in a positive light, even if you may not have been doing things that are very positive, or you don't feel that you have been doing things very beneficial to your growth. Always think about yourself and always push past that, and think about that chaos and harmony and how they balance themselves out. And to go a little step further, we as people, in kind of a very simplistic way, are spiky or soft. Think of like Play-Doh and a porcupine. The soft parts of us are very malleable and amorphous. You can kind of build them, shape them however you like. You can kind of stretch them out. You can make any type of shape you want. You can visualize any type of form. But spiky, spiky is spiky. It's prickly. When you try to touch it, it's that kind of hurts. That I don't want to touch that. I don't really want to feel that out. But when you combine it, you find that most people are prickly but soft on the inside, because most of us are kind of like that, where we have to have these defense mechanisms for ourselves, and we have to protect ourselves from being hurt and stuff like that, and from the world around us, because a lot of people will say, or like that like that funny, like a meme that has become a meme, where Future, which is a rapper, in the US kind of goes, it's an evil world we live in. And it's kind of funny because, a lot of people can think that way because obviously in terms of maybe economy, and I won't get all into that, but essentially people view the world as maybe very evil and people always trying to take advantage of one another and no one really trying to help each other out and everybody always trying to step on each other instead of trying to help each other grow and become better people. And that's an aspect of ourselves that we have to kind of recognize and either accept or reject. And for me personally, there are evil people in this world, but I don't think this is an evil world. But I think the world that we live in is based on our own perception and our own perspective and where we want to see things. So, of course, you always have to make sure that you have those defense mechanisms, that you protect yourself, especially your soul, which is, your inner feelings and what is it? Essentially your sensitivity and stuff like that. You always got to make sure you protect yourself, who you are, because when you're vulnerable, most people will try to take advantage of that vulnerability, and then they'll do it in different ways like bullying, making fun of you, picking at you, and stuff like that. And so we have this prickly side to ourselves. And when you get past that prickliness, when you get past that first date, you realize that there's this soft texture, that there's this amorphous figure known as yourself that is always changing and shifting, but you always have this shape. You always have this texture to you. And most of us, behind closed doors and within our relationship, stuff like that, we're all fuzzy and cute with each other. Like, I'll always, with my girlfriend specifically, I'll always be nice and I'll always be kind and I'll always have a good time and kind of be giggly and bubbly and I'll act like a kid with her because that's how I can express myself and that's how I feel comfortable because I'm happy with her and I'm happy being around her. And I feel that sometimes with my own friends, like with your best friends or your brothers, people who you are super close with, and you can kind of feel that fun and that energy and that kind of just being stupid around each other. It's not really all that serious. And so we have sides of ourselves that we open up. And so that chaos and harmony, that spiky, soft kind of idea is what helps you kind of understand your own spirit. Because I can't really tell you what your spirit is. I can only describe to you how I see my spirit and how I saw myself at a time. What I think will help you understand is that the amount of work ethic and the amount of work in general that I'm putting in and have can give me the motivation and give me the confidence to kind of talk to you like this and tell you these things so that you know that it's coming from a place of honesty and it's coming from a place of realness, because I would never want to just say these things just to say it. And I would never want to put you in a position where you're listening to the words that someone says or myself and think to yourself, man, are they being truthful? Is their advice something that I can take for myself and move forward with? And I want you to know that whatever I say and whatever you do is all up to how you interpret it. And I hope that with the image and the picture that you have in your mind now, that you have found your own definitions or your own way of understanding these things. And if you already have before, then that is great. I hope you just build more upon it and you find yourself more in tune with the person you are, really connect to that spirit, really connect to that will, and really try to understand your emotions, because every emotion has an aspect of itself that's important. For instance, an emotion that people see very negatively, very bad is anger. When people get angry, it's like, oh my God, I'm just tired of you. I just want to get rid of you or something like that. Or I want to take my anger out and I want to just express myself and do something bad with it or do something with it. And it's like, anger can be directed in any direction. You can use anger to motivate yourself. You can use anger to propel yourself to a better place. A good example is Raphael from TMNT. I don't know if you guys ever seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or ever seen it, but they're awesome. Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. Raphael, the red bandana and the anger one. He's always angry. Well, not always angry, but he has like a very, serious personality to him. And sometimes he'll get angry and sometimes he'll, lash out. But most of the time he uses that anger to build upon himself and do good. Another example is Vegeta, from Dragon Ball Z. He's the type of person that started off very angry and is always kind of angry or moody or grouchy or some type of aspect like that. And even when he's angry and stuff like that, he still doesn't use it to attack the people closest to him. He uses it to motivate himself to push past those things and, That's just an example of using something that seems negative to use it as a positive, because we can all find positive feelings like fun, love, happiness, graciousness, appreciation. We can use all those things to kind of motivate us and stuff like that. Just never forget that every emotion, even being sad, can motivate you. Damn, I feel sad. Maybe I should express it. Man, I feel sad. Maybe I should write about it. Maybe I should express myself and see how I really feel about my sadness, and reread it and kind of look at yourself. Be reflective, you know, kind of give yourself that opportunity to look at yourself in the mirror and think, hey, yo, what you feeling up in there? Ooh, that ain't looking too good, ain't it? Well, let's work on that together. Let's look at ourselves and kind of switch it up a little bit. We don't have to think like that. We don't have to see ourselves that way. It's not always like that. Ooh, man, we kind of angry. Ooh, we angry at ourselves. We did something wrong. Oh no, boo boo. Or you kind of look at yourself and be like, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy of you. I'm so happy for you as a person, and I want you to look at yourself that way too. I want you to dig deep, and I want you to look at who you are and who you want to be. And always remember that you can always change and you can always be better for yourself. And all these things are kind of, now that I've kind of gotten my whole spirit idea out somewhat, I want you to take these pieces, it's kind of like a triangle: focus, motivation, spirit. Build that triangle, put that in your mind, and see the combination and the exponential energy and effect that this has for you. Because all these things put together will essentially create an arrow of forwardness and awesomeness and energy, and propel you to greater heights. Because all these things individually are very important, but when you put them together, when you find the focus to be motivated about building yourself up and being better, you will find that you can go the distance. You'll start flying before you even know how to walk. Which, of course, where it comes to, the whole Icarus story. Not to kind of like, dumb down the hype, but, the story of Icarus, just long story short, is he essentially was impatient. He was, young, very happy, and excited about himself. But he got too close to the sun. And the metaphor for that is that he got too close. You have to have that balance, like his dad, just gliding, take things for what they are. If you're happy in life right now, be happy. If you're sad about life right now, be sad. But always take those steps to change your outlook and be better for yourself. So when you're happy, use that. Boom, let's get happy. When you're sad, use something, use a catalyst to kind of help you propel through that sadness and reach something else, because we get bored a lot. And sometimes we get bored of being sad. We get bored of being happy. We get bored of listening to people trying to tell us how to do and how to be ourselves. Sometimes we just want to express ourselves and be who we want to be. And that is where independence comes in. And independence is one of the greatest things that you can ever have. And when you find that independence for yourself, you'll realize that it is no longer people guiding you on this path. It is you walking this path and you moving yourself forward. And it's always been you. But when you have so many people around you kind of pushing you forward and taking and lifting your feet and moving those steps for you, that when you take those steps for yourself and you feel that connection of mind and body and you continue moving forward, you'll realize that this was you this whole time. You were taking every step. You were making it happen, and nobody else can take that from you. Got really hyped. And that is the motivation, and that is the perspective that I hope you guys find for yourselves, that you can see the world around you in a better way, and you can see yourself in a better way. Because ignore color, ignore gender, ignore the world itself, and just focus on being a better you. Because we are living our best lives right now. There's a thing that I was thinking about the last week or a couple weeks ago about string theory, where it's like these infinite, universes that exist. And in these infinite universes that exist, you may not be the best version of yourself. But that is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, you are living your best life right now. And even if you don't feel like you're the best version of yourself, you're still doing your best. So be happy with that and continue moving forward. And don't let anybody discourage you from growing and being better for yourself, because I believe in you. and I hope you believe in yourself too. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone listening to this episode, and I want to kind of delve into a little bit of what I want to have after. And so anybody that has any questions or any topics that you want me to cover, or maybe you feel like I didn't cover something enough, and maybe you have more feedback for me and stuff like that, let me know in the comments, give me a shout out, let me know. And also, as always, I definitely don't want this to be just myself. If you have an idea or things that you want to talk about, come on. If you just want to chat and want to let people know that we chatted, or just want to talk about things, yo, come on over. You can hit me up. You can message me. I have my link tree, and you can message me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can also message me on my email if you want to make like business inquiries, as in like working together and stuff like that. On podcast, my email is RubenNGutierrez@outlook.com. And you can email me whenever. I'll have the email below. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music, then just rewind like a minute. You know what I'm saying? And then just re-listen to it. And then, just let me know, or just use those links that I described. It's a link tree. My link tree will be there. Don't worry. But essentially, just reach out to me. Let me know. And like I said, if you have any questions about me, myself personally, I'll be more than happy to answer them, give you more insight into myself. And if you have things that you want to talk about, and if you have things that I want to talk about, like I said, just let me know. Give me some feedback in the comments, and let me know what you guys think, because your feedback is what will help me grow and will help me continue to make this podcast as best as it can be, so I can help and reach as many people as possible, because I want to help you guys support yourselves, and I want to support you as well. So let's do this together, and let's make this life our best life. All right, guys, and I also forgot to mention why the title is called FMV. So the reason it's called FMV is not focus, motivation, and then some type of V word. It actually stands for first music video, because I hope that with this episode that you have some type of visual in your mind when you listen in and when you tune in. And especially this one, since we were kind of trying to create some type of image in our mind, I hope that at the same time that you can find kind of a rhythm to your life, and that you can get going on your own flow, and so you can create that, so we can all ride on this stream of consciousness. Also, the term that I used earlier, the term that I used when I was talking about losing focus over a certain period of time, is called vigilance decrement. And that's what I was trying to say earlier. I just couldn't really find the words, but yeah, just wanted to let y'all know. Jargon Podcast. Check it out.